Hi, and welcome to your session on consumer research. Thanks for joining this session with me today. And I hope we will spend very productive time for the next 45 or 60 minutes together to find out what consumer research means and why it's so important for your future business. So, before we start speaking about consumer research and market research, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Katharina Feldman. I've been working in the marketing field for about 15 years now in various industries, including larger companies such as DAW and their major, quite well-known German brands such as Alpina and Caparol, but also in startups. So in my last position as a chief marketing officer, I spent about almost 5 years basically trying to find out how to convince our B2B customers to buy our product, how to create a brand awareness for our product, and to basically come up with creative and engaging marketing strategies. So what do I currently do? I teach at different institutions here in Berlin. So I teach at the CIEE Berlin. I do guest lectures at the Beuth University or at the Technical University here, as I do today, but also at the Epitech School of IT Expertise. So I teach international and strategic marketing, but also entrepreneurship. So I hope there are a couple of insights that I can share, and I hope you will enjoy this session. So, what to expect from this session? I want to cover basically three aspects today. First of all, I want to establish very, let's say, common understanding of what market research and consumer research means and why we need it, why you need it for your product development, for basically any marketing campaign, any marketing strategy. So we will speak and cover some basics, as well as then going deeper into the different fields, speaking about basically how to conduct market research and how to conduct consumer research. So let us speak about the difference between market and consumer research. So very often when I speak to startups, they would use both terms interchangeably, which is not quite correct because both, let's say, terms have different meanings and different objectives. Basically, what is the difference? Well, obviously, one of the major differences we see in market and consumer research is the focus. So the consumer research primarily focuses on understanding your individual or your potential customer on a very, let's say, granular level. So we want to understand the attitudes, the behavior, the emotional state, the preferences, the needs, the problem of the customer. So we are really delving into the psychology and motivations of the customer. And let's say the outcome of a consumer research is usually detailed customer persona profile or buyer persona profile, or a very detailed, let's say, consumer journey. So what are the different touch points? What are the different stages our customer will go through in order to make this very specific purchase? On the other hand, we have the market research, and here we are looking at the market as a whole. So basically, think of market research as some sort of umbrella. So that's, let's say, the industry, that's the market you're looking at the broader focus. So here we are seeking to provide, let's say, insights into the overall market conditions. What are the trends? What are the major developments? What are the industry trends? What is our competition doing? Do we have competitors? How are they different? What kind of features, product features do they offer? How can we differentiate ourselves from competition? And basically to really understand the different market dynamics and also the different market segments. So we have a completely different focus when we speak about consumer and market research. So obviously also the methodology is going to be different. So when you are conducting consumer research, you will be involved in in-depth interviews. Very often you will directly interact with the customer or with the potential customer. So you need to speak to the customer in order to find out what do they really think about the product? What are the motivations behind their purchasing decision? So, but you could also, invite focus groups. You will have interviews, surveys, but also observations to gain insights into your customer's brain, into your customer's heart, in order to understand what are the thoughts and what is motivating their purchasing behavior. And we are going to speak about the different methods in a couple of slides. So we're using a different methodology, while when we are conducting market research, you would very often look into secondary data. You will analyze industry reports. You will probably create this table where you are comparing your product or service benefits against the product or service benefits of your competitors. You will look into industry reports and basically on various data that will give you this macro level of the market and its major developments and dynamics. That's basically the major difference. And obviously, another difference that we see is the outcome. So the outcome of the consumer research could be a detailed customer buyer persona profile that you will create, speaking about your customer or potential customer or your ideal customer. But this could also be a detailed consumer journey where you speak about a different touch point of the customer and what are the factors influencing the consumer journey. While when we speak about market research, you will basically identify market gaps for you to come up with a, let's say, smart market entry strategy. You would probably come up with a brand positioning strategy. You will probably come up with a pricing strategy by analyzing the market. And often we will find different ways to, let's say, show how we are positioning ourselves in the market. You probably heard about perceptual maps. So that's basically the result of market research. So in real life, startups and companies will conduct both. They will conduct market research, but also consumer research. So they will probably start with market research to understand the overall market landscape, to dive into consumer research later on to create tailor-made content, really targeting a sharp customer segment and a very sharp customer profile. But you can also start with the customer if you have a solution and or product or service where you already know this is going to be my customer profile. You can also work, let's say, from here and then see, okay, how many people are out there? What is the market size? How can we calculate the market size? And who else is out there in this field? So, how to conduct market research? What are the core elements of market research that you also need to implement in your business plan or any, let's say, strategic analysis of the market? Obviously, one of the major and, let's say, core elements of a market research is the competitive analysis. So you need to understand who else is out there. Who are your competitors? What are their benefits? Why are you different? How is your solution? How is your product or service better? What is the reason? What is the unique value proposition of your product and service in comparison to your competition? And we are going to speak about how to let's say, conduct a competitive analysis in a second. But understanding your competition is crucial. It's crucial for your marketing campaigns, because you will need to differentiate yourself. It's crucial for the market share. It's crucial for your brand positioning or market positioning. So this is basically one of the first steps you need to cover when conducting market research. Another obviously major element of the market research analysis is to understand the market size. So you need to calculate the market size, and I think you will have an entire session on market sizing, where you will probably speak about the different approaches that are out there, such as the top-down and bottoms-up approach. So basically, this will give your business plan a realistic scope, and also, how much room is there for you to grow, for your business to grow, and set, realistic expectations in business planning. Also, obviously, you need to be ahead of things. You need to understand the market dynamics. This is what I meant by, industry analysis, industry reports. So what are the threats? What are the opportunities? What is going on in your very specific industry? So you look into industry trends, emerging technologies. How is this going to change your industry? What are potential opportunities? So basically, this can help you anticipate shifts in the market and have a more realistic approach when it comes to your market entry strategy. And obviously, last but not least, you could also work with strategic frameworks such as the SWOT analysis. Really, I'm not going to speak about the SWOT analysis, but really understand, the strength and weaknesses of your business idea, as also to speak about opportunities and threats that you see on the external side of, let's say, the business, which is usually the market. So you want to have this very clear picture about what is happening outside of your company and how is this going to affect your potential growth. So obviously, I'm not going to speak about every single aspect of market research, but I mentioned the competitive analysis. And I think this is very crucial for basically your business plan, or basically anything you are planning to do, especially when you are later on planning to do some sort of marketing. So what we know is basically the key to winning your target customer is to understand their needs better than competitors do. And you want to deliver more value than competitors do. In order to do that, you need to understand who else is out there and what exactly are they doing. So what we know is basically there's no marketing strategy without knowing your competitors. You need to understand what they're doing. Ideally, you don't reinvent the wheel. So if things are working marketing-wise or positioning-wise for your competition, sometimes it's a good way to just, let's say, copy the things that they are doing right. Not everything is bad about competition. And then adjust, the little extras that are, somehow differentiating your product from competition. So, and we also need to keep in mind that everyone who is stealing attention from your product or service is a competitor. So when I speak to startups and I ask them, so who else is out there? What are your competitors? And it would be like, our solution is super unique. There's no one else doing the things that we do. And this is usually a red flag for me, because it shows that you need to go back to the market analysis and the market research and really look for alternative solutions that are currently out there. So usually people will do something similar, or they will, satisfy their need with a similar solution. And those are also your competitors. So you need to be aware of who is out there and what exactly they're doing. So basically, in order to do that, I usually work with a table where you basically list your main competitors and analyze their strengths and weaknesses. This is a very this is a very good starting point for basically anything you do in terms of marketing, in terms of differentiation, in terms of branding, in terms of formulating your value proposition. So basically what you do, you need to explain how your company differentiates itself and offers a competitive advantage. And basically what I like to use in those cases, I like to implement a similar table. It's super simple, nothing super fancy, but it helps to structure your thoughts and to conduct competitor analysis based on, let's say, the strongest three competitors. So usually you will create a table. You go first in the column, and then you let's say speak about your competitors. Usually it's about 3 or 4 in priority order. So who's the strongest competitor? That's usually competitor number 1, and then you go, let's say, to the right. And what you do then is you basically speak about the benefits of their products or services and your product or service. What makes you strong? What makes you different? How do you stand out from your competition? And benefits can be rather quantitative than qualitative. So how much faster are you? If you are claiming to be, the fastest solution for whatever, how much faster are you? So think beyond your product and your unique differentiators. So ideally, you will place your benefits also in priority order, starting with the most important key differentiator and then, going down. And this will also help you to, understand the market and competitive landscape by simply, let's say, looking at the different features and the different benefits that you and competitive solution offer. So another aspect I would like to mention is the market sizing. This is going to be also part of your market research. And basically, when we speak about market sizing, we are calculating the market size and your potential market share. This will inform you and potential investors about your growth opportunities and basically help you with business planning. But the interesting part about market sizing, and I know, as I say, you will be speaking about this in detail, is that in order to calculate the market size, you need to do some sort of consumer research, because everything you are currently calculating is based on assumptions. And in order to end up with their honest and realistic market sizing, you need to understand your target customer on a granular level. What do I mean by that? An example. So let's say you are targeting physiotherapists in the B2B marketing segment here in Germany. And you say, well, there are, I don't know, so and so many physiotherapists in the market, so the potential is great. If we somehow end up making 3% of the market, everything is working out for us. However, by looking at the customer profile, you can also see, well, is the solution suitable for all physiotherapists, or do they need to have a specific education in order to use our product? Do they need to have a specific location? Do they need to be placed, situated in major cities or in other areas? Do they need to have a specific square meter minimum room for the installation of your device? So you will end up with all those questions, understanding the profile on a completely different level. And this again will diminish the number of physiotherapists by a large amount. So you might end up, looking at a very different number of physiotherapists who are actually able to use your solution, because they will, match the criteria And that's why I'm saying that conducting consumer research and understanding the customer on a granular level will also basically influence the numbers that you will come up with when speaking about market sizing. So when we speak about honest market sizing and market research, we will end up with market segmentation at some stage. So what we are doing is we previously did with the market of physiotherapists. We will look into the different customer segments, basically dividing the market into different little pieces based on the different demographics, the different behaviors, and also customer preferences. So we will take the market as a whole, conduct our market research, identify the different segments, and also identify the best segment for us to penetrate with our product or service. So what is market segmentation? Why is it so important for basically everything you will do, also in terms of marketing? And as you probably remember, we talked about, the market research is some sort of umbrella. And the more we are now going into the different market segments, the more we are also moving towards consumer research, because at the end of the day, we are trying to find out, well, who is our final customer? And this is what we see here in market segmentation. So what is market segmentation and why it's important for you and for the business plan, and basically every marketing campaign and also product development approach. So market segmentation is a process of dividing a market into a distinct group of buyers with different needs, characteristics, or behavior who might require separate products or marketing campaigns. And the way we can do it, or the easiest way, especially in the B2C market, is basically to use demographics and statistical data and psychographics, such as, the different pain points and dreams. So what is the outcome of market segmentation? The outcome of market segmentation is basically the creation of buyer persona profiles, which is crucial for your business for several reasons, but especially from a marketing and product development perspective. So taking the car market again as an example, we can distinguish between different buyer groups, which are basically homogeneous at the same kind as possible among themselves, but heterogeneous, so diverse to each other. And as I said, customer or persona profiles can help you to understand the needs and wants and the different behaviors of your target audience. So ideally, you end up, with the different customer profiles when you conducting your market research. So when you conduct your market research, you might face different outcomes. So when you're looking into the different segments, there are basically 4 outcomes that you could face. So let's say you're looking into the market and you find or you encounter no segments. That's the time when we're speaking about mass marketing, or let's say undifferentiated marketing. And usually that's the rarest case from my experience. So usually the startups I work with or the companies I know, they have a very specific customer profile, or they're targeting different segments. Let's look at the second scenario. So the second scenario, you uncover, let's say, different segments, but you decide to work on one segment instead of targeting different segments at the time. So here we are focusing, let's say, on a niche, and here we speak about concentrated marketing campaigns. The third scenario that you may find is you are encountering different segments, but you decide to address different segments at the same time. So here we're speaking about differentiated marketing adapted to the different segment. What do I mean by that? I mean that you are using more resources, but you are using slightly different approaches in terms of marketing, but also maybe product features or service features, tailor-made for this very specific segment. The other, let's say, last scenario that you could encounter, you find different segments, all are to be worked on. So you find different segments, they're all interesting, and now you have the choice. Either you go more or less with the mass market marketing strategy, and you just, let's say, spread one message and you see, okay, who's interested out there, or you focus on the different segments and you go with a very differentiated marketing approach or marketing campaigns according to the individual segments. So that's good in theory. My experience shows that the more precise you are with your communication, with the unique value proposition that you are offering to this very particular segment, the more efficient it is in terms of, sending the right message to the right people, using the right channel. So what is the major takeaway from the market research part of this presentation? The major takeaway is you need to conduct market research in order to understand how big is the market, what are the major developments. One of the, let's say, most important to-dos for your business plan, for everything you will do further on, is to conduct your competitor analysis. You can use this table as a helpful, let's say, tool to conduct your analysis. Remember, you speak about the benefits that are relevant for the customer, and you are not speaking about features. So what is the difference between a feature, a product feature, and a benefit? Product feature is what something is, and a benefit is what something does for the customer. So we can have a wooden handle, or we could have long-lasting, waterproof handle lasting for 5 years. So there is a difference. And when you analyze the competitive landscape, I can only encourage you to use benefits instead of features. So the result of this analysis, by the way, the competitors that you are using in this analysis should, of course, be limited to the segment where you want to operate as a business. So we're not analyzing random competitors that are not 100% relevant for us. So they need to operate, let's say, in the same, at least country, and ideally in the same segment that you are planning to penetrate and to target. What is the, let's say, next takeaway? Competitive analysis. And the last takeaway, yes, when you look into the major trends of the market, we spoke about it, you analyze the secondary data, you analyze some major developments and what to expect. Once you describe the target market you want to reach, including its size, its potential growth, its potential key trends, but also more specifically, what are the different segments you want to penetrate? So who are the different people, who are the potential customers that are out there? How do you see them, and why are you penetrating or entering one specific segment over another? Or why are you targeting two segments at the same time? So you need to be precise and clear about what you're doing, because this will, as I already mentioned, also influence everything you do in terms of product development and marketing. So let's move on and speak about our next topic, consumer research. And as you can now see, we are leaving the macro environment of our company and let's say the different aspects that are somehow impacting our business. We are moving closer to the different segments and even closer now towards our customer, looking into the, let's say, the micro analysis of our business. And since I claim to be a marketing expert, I also tend to repeat myself by saying basically everything you do starts with your customer. And I know it seems quite obvious, but I also know from my experience that we tend to forget who we are building our solutions for, because we fall in love with our ideas so much, and we spend so many resources on, building the product, coding the product, or writing the business plan, that sometimes we really completely forget about the customer and really the necessity to understand the customer on a granular level. And a nice example for, let's say, consumer research, or the success of consumer research, is the Febreze case study, a product you probably know, that will neutralize smell. Usually it's a B2C product in a home. So when they first introduced the product to the customer, the company was targeting, let's say, the smelly homes of usually pet owners. And for some reason, the sales were not doing as good as the company expected. And at some stage, they suggested to do some consumer research and really speak to the customer the company identified as their target segment or target customer. And basically try to find out why they are not selling. And what I like from this research is basically this little dialogue that was portrayed. Also added the link of the case study, where the researcher basically speaks to the home and cat owner, asking, so what do you do about the smell? And the cat owner says, well, it's usually not a problem. So the researcher asks, so do you smell it now? No, isn't it wonderful? My cats hardly smell at all. What does it tell us as a future company or a future business? It tells us that it can be quite challenging to sell a product to a consumer or customer base or customer segment that is not even experiencing the pain that we assume the customer to experience. So how do you want to sell a product to a customer base that believes that basically no bad smell exists in their home? And this is what we also know from, let's say, other studies and other case studies, that people do have blind spots. Sometimes they will just not see it, they will not feel it, or they will somehow ignore it. And what was the, let's say, major takeaway for Febreze and the consumer research? They had to reposition their product. And if you look at the company's brand positioning and, let's say, value proposition today, you will realize that nowadays the company is targeting the, let's say, cleaner segment of the market. Usually it's the little extra freshness that you will add into a freshly cleaned home. So by basically completely repositioning their brand and basically their marketing approach. So, and this will probably also answer my next question. So why do we need consumer research? And as you will probably also see in the marketing session, especially marketing, and I'm not speaking about product development because that's not my field of expertise, but obviously this is also going to affect every little product feature that you will develop for your product or, let's say, service. We say that marketing is basically all about in-depth and tangible understanding of who your customers are and how they feel about you and your product or service. And by, let's say, understanding the customer, by creating a customer profile, will help you to come up with a very customer-centric marketing approach that will basically help you to build a stronger connection with your target audience and help you with data-driven decisions, and ultimately also drives business growth and sales, so profitability. What I'm saying by that, again, market segmentation, going deeper into the different characteristics of your customer will help you to come up with different marketing campaigns. So when we say we're targeting women in Germany, we will also say, well, what kind of women? How old are they? Where do they live? What kind of educational background do they have? What is the household income? Are they married? Do they have kids? So you can be very specific, and the more specific you are, and the more you know about the customer, and the insights you also know about the customer. Who of them is using a product to, let's say, add this little extra freshness after cleaning? So the more you understand, the more precise marketing will be. So consumer research is important when it comes to the understanding of the different pain points of the customer, and also, which is quite interesting, understanding the barriers to purchase. Sometimes there are just certain risks that customers will, somehow feel associated with the product or service, and this can also help you to, let's say, address those risks with your marketing communication, with your marketing campaign, like literally in your face. Are you afraid of using this because you feel this and that? We can solve it, or you don't have to fear that because. So you can also play with this information for your business purposes. So basically you want to understand the drivers that will motivate the purchase, so you can also speak about it. And you also want to understand the optimal price point for your product or service. So by speaking to the customer, by understanding what other alternatives and other options are out there, you can also understand the price sensitivity. So when is the point where the customer is still willing to spend money with you, and when do they just drop out? So the better you understand your target market, your target audience, basically sitting at the end of this market segment, the more targeted campaigns you can design, and the more is the probability that you will end up with achieving your product market fit. So basically, a product market fit is a validation that your product or service is solving a real problem in the market for your customer. So the cat owner has to feel the smell. The cat owner has to have a problem with it in order to claim this product, achieving a product market fit and not targeting the wrong audience or the wrong market segment. So a product market fit refers to the degree in which your product or service satisfies the needs of this very specific market or customer segment. And basically consumer research, so the deeper understanding of your customer will help you to validate your assumptions about the customer, about their pain points, about their motivations and hypotheses about the market's needs. And achieving a strong product market fit means that your offering aligns perfectly with what the market is looking for, and there is substantial demand for your product and service. And again, in order to understand that, you also need to speak to your customer. And this is, by the way, just some of the insights. One of the strangest things that I personally encountered when I coach startups, founders and company owners have, that's at least what I see, this very strong fear of facing the reality, as I call it. So they would spend hours and months on product development, assumptions, hypotheses, iterations with the team. But when I come in and ask them to, okay, so what do your customers tell you? So do you have a list of, 50 people we can just call and, interview? They would be like, nah, that's a different customer. So I don't know what it is. Maybe it's also the fear of, losing this idea. But when it comes to directly interacting with a potential customer, I always fear feel this fear of, maybe somehow the need of product adjustments or major changes. But this is just some interesting insights that I would like to share with you. So, and the thing about the product market fit is that it's never static. So it's an ongoing process because, customer demands, customer behaviors, customer pain points, motivations are changing constantly. We see, the changing dynamics of the market. We see new competitors coming into play, also satisfying the needs of a customer. So that's an ongoing process. Also, by the way, as it is with the need to conduct consumer research. So you need to be, ahead of those developments. You always constantly need to check in to the different customers and see, okay, so are we still, meeting the problem? Are we still solving the problem with our solution, or do our customer profiles evolve, or do they have changed over time?
So we spoke about the different methods how to conduct consumer research, and let's have a closer look into the different methods out there. So one of the tactics that we can use to conduct consumer research are surveys and questionnaires. Obviously, you can have an online survey that you can send out using services such as SurveyMonkey, for example, or websites or social media. We could also speak to our customer on the phone. So we could also do consumer research by doing phone surveys, or obviously in-person, face-to-face surveys where we directly interact with our customer or potential customer. Another method that we use quite often in the startup field are focus groups. So basically here we will invite a small group of participants to discuss products or services with a facilitator. So it's quite useful also from my experience to explore, let's say, in-depth insights or opinions, or just to observe some reactions from the potential customer. And it's usually quite helpful to just invite customers. Sometimes you will invite them to your office, or you can also meet in public places and basically discuss the product or the idea about the product, or basically to test your hypotheses. Another method that is used in consumer research are observations. So here researchers observe consumers in natural settings to understand their behavior. So here we either just let the consumer try our product or software, or we can, for example, if we want to open a showroom, we will just observe, okay, so what kind of people are hanging out there? So what do they do in this location, in this street? And usually potential customers or the people don't even know that you're observing them and you are taking notes. Last but not least, which is quite intense, I would say, and also sometimes biased. So you need to know how to conduct interviews or in-depth interviews, but very interesting and very insightful. So interviews or in-depth one-on-one interviews are also very, let's say, efficient to gain, to provide detailed insights, and those can be conducted in person, over the phone, or via video conferencing. Something that we do a lot in online marketing or performance marketing is the online analytics. So here we would, for example, analyze websites or social media metrics to track and also understand user behavior. So what are the examples for online analytics? Obviously, social media metrics and KPIs are quite interesting for us. I don't know, engagement rates, or when is the best time to post, but also, for example, heat maps. So how do website users use the website, or how do they scroll? What are the call to actions that they will click the most? What is the information they are looking for the most? So online analytics are basically a crucial part of anything you do, especially in online marketing. We will speak about this in our marketing session. Obviously, you can also look into data, so secondary research. When conducting your consumer research, you can find some, I don't know, sales numbers or preferences, or anything that might be relevant for your product or service, and use data from sources like industry reports, academic studies, or even government publications. So sometimes you will also find quite valuable information by, just looking to secondary data. So what is the consumption rate of vitamin C in this area, and why is this happening, if that's relevant for your product. Another, let's say, method that we use a lot in especially online marketing is the so-called A/B testing or experimentation. So what is A/B testing? A/B testing is basically conducting controlled experiments to test especially marketing strategies or unique value propositions or consumer reactions, but you can also test images or visuals, or I don't know, even a logo. So basically what's happening in the A/B testing field, you basically launch two campaigns. One is called A, the other one is called B, and you exchange one, let's say, factor, or you exchange one element, the one that you want to test, and see how do customers or how do users behave, where do they click on, how many leads are coming in from each campaign. And this way you can also find out, where to invest more resources and how to continue with your marketing efforts. And I think last but not least, we also have usability testing, quite a famous technique when it comes to the testing of usability of websites, softwares, apps, or products with real users. So you will basically also invite users, or you will ask users to use your product and just see how do they interact with your software or with your service. So where are the bugs? What is the feedback? What are they asking for? What is missing? So it's a very, let's say, valuable method to basically test your product with a real customer. So, and we've been speaking a lot about our ideal customer, about the buyer persona profile. What is a buyer persona profile at the end of the day? So basically, you can answer the question by answering yourself. How do I describe my perfect customer? And the interesting part about the buyer persona profile, that it's usually a semi-fictional representation of your ideal customer. So basically, it's based on your assumptions, but also based on the market and consumer research, as well as real data, secondary data, industry insights about your existing customers. And that's probably what I previously meant by the randomness of, the buyer persona profiles that I sometimes encounter when I speak to founders. So you share the information when you are speaking about the buyer persona profile that is 100% relevant for your product or service. So what happens quite often is that I will rather encounter a lot of information that is not 100% relevant. Something like, I don't know, random names, their age, how many siblings they have, or if they have a pet or not, like some sort of random information that is not 100% relevant for my product. And on the other hand, I will miss important information such as, okay, so what is the household income? Is my customer, does my customer have the financial resources to pay for my premium product? So what I'm saying when creating a customer profile, please keep in mind that all the criteria and all the elements that you use to describe your customer or your ideal customer should be 100% relevant for your product or service. So what are the, let's say, elements that we use to describe our perfect customer? So we said that, the buyer persona profile or customer profile is the, let's say, final result or the representation of our segment, of our market segment. And we usually go into the segmentation process by using 4 segmentation criteria. So we can differentiate between demographic, so that's the statistical information such as age, gender, occupation, household income, or nationality. We can also speak about psychographic, so let's say the dreams, the fears, again, related or associated with our product or service. So we're not speaking about something completely random. So our customer likes traveling. If that's not 100% relevant for our product or service, then we can go into the segmentation, speaking about the behavioral aspects of our customer. That's usually the lifestyle. So here we can speak about what their preferences are. Where do they hang out? Do they rather prefer online shopping or brick and mortar shopping? Again, this information could be relevant for the marketing channels that I use. So do I rather offer my product online or do I open a showroom in the city? So if this information is relevant for my product and service, I will definitely mention it. And last but not least, the last criteria that we use for market segmentation is the geographic, so the location. Where are they based? Where do they live? Again, if that is relevant for me, that, for example, my customer needs to live in a major city because I have a product that, is somehow distributed only in a very limited area, then I need to mention it. And this will create this, let's say, a round picture, a holistic profile of my ideal customer.
So understanding our customer is basically crucial for your business, and that is important for several reasons. You want to create targeted marketing and messaging. And a buyer persona profile, basically as the outcome of your consumer research, will help you with that. Again, this implies that you know everything about the customer, or at least as much as possible at the customer. It will help you with product development. So knowing your buyer persona profile enables you to tailor your products and services to meet their preferences and expectations. So this customer-centric approach increases the likelihood of product success, product market fit. So customer satisfaction leading to, again, repeat businesses and positive word of mouth recommendation. By understanding the behavioral, let's say, aspect of the profile, you can select the right channels where to, let's say, spread the message. So buyer personas can guide you in selecting the most appropriate marketing channels. If they spend 16 hours on TikTok, it makes no sense for you to use any other channels and use more resources on hanging out on LinkedIn just because you assume them to use these channels, because you assume them to, let's say, rather operate in the B2B field. But at the end of the day, you find out that even the B2B people, they will come back home and they just wanted to relax, and they're using, let's say, other social media channels than you expect them to use. So what I'm saying, check, validate your assumptions about your customer by speaking them. So maybe one of the questions, since I've been mentioning it now, is how can I create a customer profile in the B2B field? Do we have customer profiles in the B2B field? And indeed, yes, we do. So persona profiles are valuable in the B2B markets as well, just as they are in B2C markets. In fact, creating detailed B2B buyer personas can especially be beneficial for your marketing and sales efforts. And that's the, let's say, tricky part about B2B marketing and consumer research, that very often it will end up in this very abstract company or hospital, or it has like some sort of a building kind of thing where we are speaking about something that is very abstract, forgetting about that, again, at the end of the day, there are people inside this building, that are paying for the solution that we are offering, that are somehow experiencing different pain points. So by breaking also this abstract construct of the B2B market, by looking into the different decision makers, by identifying the different decision makers in their different pain points, we can also create a communication and marketing approaches, and also train our salespeople to, let's say, deliver the right messages to the right people. So B2B buyer persona profiles can help you understand the specific needs, goals, and challenges, as well as I just mentioned, also the pain points of the individuals or roles involved in the purchasing decision process. And we know that in B2B sales cycles, we have many more people involved, and a different level of complexity involved in a purchasing decision. So knowing the preferences and information needs of the different B2B personas involved in the decision-making process can enable you to tailor a content strategy that will satisfy this person's needs. So maybe you'll create some sort of information for the first, person or touch point, and this information will be then passed on towards the second person. You will create more information for the second person. So what I'm saying, you need to also try to understand the individuals behind the B2B buildings or markets, and not be afraid of really doing the consumer research here as well. So basically, the buyer persona profile as the outcome of our B2B consumer research will have a completely different impact, or we will uncover different pain points. We will uncover different fears, challenges, and problems that our customers will be facing, somehow maybe linked to the corporate world or the government, well, depending on the field where we operate in the B2B or B2G environment. But what we need to remember, and I think that's maybe, let's say, the last takeaway from this session, that market research and consumer research is the foundation basically of everything you do, and will help you with product development and marketing. And especially consumer research is closely intertwined with the concept of product market fit. So that's basically the foundation upon which you build your understanding of your market and your target audience. Remember, everything you do starts with the customer. The insights gained from consumer research guide product development. They will guide marketing like big time. And we will speak about marketing in the next session, and also ongoing refinement, all of which are critical for achieving and maintaining a strong product market fit. Last but not least, as the major outcome of the consumer research, the buyer customer profile or persona profile needs to be validated. So don't only work with the assumptions, but also go out there, speak to the customers, to as many customers as possible, to validate your assumptions, and also use the information in the description of the customer that is relevant for your product and service, that will somehow influence any strategic decisions you make according to product marketing and your business. That's it from my side. Thank you very much for joining this session on market research and consumer research. I hoped it helped a little bit with your studies, and I wish you all the best, and I see you soon. Thank you.